iPhone rumors, Microsoft layoffs, kangaroo detection in driverless cars, and the author of the popular blog McMansion Hell tells us how she defended her right to mock turrets. All that and so much more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1802, recorded Monday, July 3rd, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we tell you what you need to know about all the tech news. I am Megan Maroney.
All of it. I'm Jason Howell. Have a good weekend.
I did. Some people are still having a weekend, but not us.
It's true.
We're here.
It's true. Well, you know, it's the July 4th holiday, which, by the way, for those of you, Brian had that transition all geared up for every time we say July 4th. He'll let it flash by the screen. He missed an opportunity right there. Just going to say, is tomorrow. So we will not have an episode tomorrow. But we will also not start barbecuing until tomorrow. And that's sad.
And if you usually watch this the next day, then we will have an episode tomorrow, and you get to watch
that's true.
That episode today.
You'll be like, wait a minute, it's Wednesday, it's not a holiday. Why didn't I get an episode yesterday? You guys, you confused me. I'm sorry. It's not my problem. It's you. Okay. Let's talk about some tech news. Yeah. In fact, let's talk about some tech news about technology that doesn't exist yet, because that's always fun to talk about. The upcoming and as yet unannounced anniversary edition of the iPhone is expected to shift gears in a few ways that we've talked about on this show. One of those has been a move toward a bezel-less front screen, which has led people to wonder where the Touch ID fingerprint scanner would go. Would it be moved under the glass or maybe behind the device? I doubt Apple would do that, but Mark Gurman at Bloomberg has sources who say that Touch ID might be going away altogether. In its place, a front-facing 3D sensor for advanced facial recognition that is less likely to be tricked as similar 2D offerings by other manufacturers. We've definitely seen face recognition. Google had this as part of Android. I think ice cream sandwich, they had face unlock. And it was a total gimmick. Like, it was super easy to trick because it's just a camera. You can pick up a picture of someone, put it in front of the camera, and that would get you access. And later Google's like, yeah, don't use this for any if you're really worried about security, don't use this. But this would be a 3D sensor, and that would be more difficult to trick. Right. Are you curious?
I am curious. Like, so it's depth sensing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I use Windows Hello, and I like it. And I think this would be great. I mean, we've heard, like, Ming-Chi Kuo, the analyst, has been talking a lot about how he really doesn't think that they'll be able to have a fingerprint sensor under this screen that they have seen. And that was a little worrisome. Like, he was sort of presenting it as, you know, they're behind. We're not going to have, they haven't figured it out yet. But if they have, and they're decided to go with the face recognition instead, I think that they never really have launched anything this big, like anything that has to do with security, by like totally, messing it up. So I think they probably know what they're doing. We'll have to wait. I mean, yeah, sources say they're testing it is an interesting thing because they're testing everything right now.
That's true.
Like, we could say, like, we wouldn't, if it didn't come out, we wouldn't say, like, oh, Gurman was wrong, because he was probably right, because they are testing it.
They're
also testing, like, probably someone there is testing how, to get to the moon and how I can live forever. All those things are being tested, I'm sure.
But there are multiple different points pointing to this, right? Ming-Chi Kuo, as you say, posted kind of 10 things to know about the upcoming iPhone, and that was definitely on the list. Touch ID going away, 3D scanning. Mark Gurman has his own sources, and Mark Gurman is also very well known for being very well sourced. But you're right, Apple's testing a lot. Another thing that they're possibly testing on the new device or an upcoming device of some sort is a dedicated chip on board devoted to artificial intelligence processing on the device, which is by the way something that Google is also playing around with. And as we move more into this AI first world, or place where AI is given so much more importance in what we do on these devices, that makes a whole lot of sense. But does that make this next device, if there's going to be a big device shift, the 10th anniversary, iPhone, I think it's going to be the iPhone 8, right? The real big kind of redesigned iPhone that everyone's expecting. This would be the time for a major shift like that. So.
Yeah, there is no button on this phone either. As they're pointing out in the chat room, it's a fake button.
Right.
It's not, there's a fingerprint sensor, but it's not a button.
Yeah, I guess it tricks you into thinking that it's a button. It totally
tricks you. Like if your phone is off and you try to you're like, what? That's not a button?
That throws me off, although I have to say, because it's the same kind of sensation that you get on the Mac Pro or the MacBook Pro, which my wife has, and that trackpad. It's not an actual button that you push down. It senses your pressure and then gives you a little bit of haptic kickback. And I still cannot get used to it. Anytime I pick up my wife's laptop and try and use that trackpad, it totally throws me off. And I end up pressing it when I don't mean to press it and everything. So I don't know what that. I actually liked the implementation on the iPhone when I used your iPhone, though. So
if they could convince us that there's a button where there is no button, what else can they convince us of?
That will someday fly to the moon thanks to Apple because they're working on it? I don't know.
Yeah, we might be living in a simulation. I always think
that's true. I think we are.
Sources at TechCrunch say Microsoft is laying off thousands in a global sales and marketing reorg as the company downsizes its boxed software program. Several execs sent memos to staff today that mentioned the reorg, but not the layoffs. The downsizing will likely happen in the coming weeks as Microsoft's fiscal year ends in July. So July is when my contract ended at Microsoft. July is a scary time at Microsoft, having been there for many years. It's when a lot of people get laid off. So it makes sense what they're doing. Azure is chasing AWS, Amazon Web Services. They really want to compete with them, and Amazon is way ahead right now in terms of the market reach of cloud. And cloud it's nearly a $300 billion market. So that's what everybody wants. And so they also want to lure people into Surface, more people using Office 365, and mixed reality and gaming. So they're just reorganizing, and that will mean that a lot of people that were on the teams that were focused on selling actual physical software will be reorganized, maybe laid off.
Yeah, and probably very soon. We'll hear the final word on that. Yeah, I mean, for how long, for decades that Microsoft has been devoted to the boxed software kind of approach, which everybody has. Then cloud comes along, becomes such a big deal. And I mean, now, like, when was the last time you went into a store and bought any sort of box software at all? We get it all online. Whether it's a cloud product or whether it's just delivered to us over the cloud, from a company server somewhere. That's just how we do our software now. And so Kevin Turner, he was an 11-year Microsoft veteran and COO. He had left Microsoft last year, and he oversaw 51,000 employees in sales and marketing and operations. And when he left, all of those groups were split up and given their own individual kind of leadership. And Judson Althoff took over the business sales division, and recently Althoff was criticizing how Microsoft is selling Azure, just basically saying, like, we've been steeped in this boxed software sales approach for so long, and that just doesn't match how people get their software and how how our sales should be designed and set up. So this shakeup appears to be like it will be part of that. Oh, I guess it's me. Microsoft continues here. Windows 10 users are looking forward to one of Microsoft's announced key features called Timeline. This is the feature that lets users pick up where they left off when they switch from using an app on one device to using that app on another device, similar, of course, to Apple's continuity feature. It sounds like they're going to have to continue to wait anyways, as Microsoft executive Joe Belfiore confirmed that Timeline won't be making it to the fall creators update as expected. This is what Microsoft has been saying. Initially, they showed off the feature, said it would be coming out in the fall, And now, apparently, according to Belfiore, it's being pushed back to the next major update after the fall update. Fall update hits in September, which would mean the next major update would be somewhere around March of 2018. So if this is a feature that you were really looking forward to, and it was a key feature that they showed off, so people were really excited about it, you're going to have to wait another half year beyond the next release.
I mean, he confirmed this in a tweet, like it was a response to someone at The Verge's tweet. And it was like he said that it's not that it was delayed so much as the timing wasn't specified, and that they would be better at specifying their timing, which I thought was a little bit, because it was a key feature. I mean, it was in the build. At Build, they show this off as something that would be amazing for everyone who used an iPhone or an Android phone and wanted to use a Windows PC. So this is a big market. Like this is, there's a lot of people that are getting tired of these little Mac laptops, and they just say like, I don't necessarily need one anymore. I can continue using my iPhone, and then I can get a better device. And then there's people like, Mary Jo Foley uses an Android phone, is in love with the Android operating system. Paul Thurrott, who hosts Windows Weekly, both of them do, he uses an iPhone. Like there's a lot of people that would really use this feature a lot. And, it's a continuity that on the iPhone, it's not like this feature that I find really incredibly helpful either. It's there, and sometimes if I remember to use it, I'm like, oh, look at that. The website I was looking at on my laptop just suddenly appeared on my iPhone. But it's not something it sounds a lot better than it is in practice.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a good feature, but I imagine I imagine the logistics behind the scenes are actually really complicated. Like I think about this in my use of Android, and how Chrome can sync kind of browser sessions between devices, and that's just web. You're not talking applications. And when you go into that realm, I have to imagine this is a really complicated matter behind the scenes for Microsoft to make. So maybe Microsoft just needs to get better at how it announces some of these features ahead of release. Maybe make sure that if they're announcing a feature, hopefully they're announcing it for the upcoming release, because that's what people are going to expect. And then if you end up putting it off and it's another year, I don't know. It just kind of, but what is the downside for Microsoft in doing that? Just upsetting people a little bit? And, because no one wants them to release a feature that isn't totally ready. But are they setting the expectation bar too high for themselves? And I don't know, does that have any sort of detrimental effect? I'm not even that sure. It gives diehard Microsoft users something to look forward to. So I guess that's positive.
I see it more of a like fool me once, fool me twice kind of situation, because the creators update was supposed to be like, this is going to be an amazing update for creators, and we're going to have this and we're going to have that. It's like there wasn't really that much for creators there. Right. So, it's very dangerous to oversell in your keynote speeches something that you're not going to deliver.
Yeah, that's true. Burke, I think, agrees with you, Megan. He says this is totally the first time Microsoft has ever done this. There's a little bit of a history there, so maybe they need to tighten that up a little bit.
Right, so we're still in the fool me once, shame on me level of this? Okay.
Way beyond, Burke says. Okay. We've been fooled many times.
So we're shaming Microsoft now. We're shame on Microsoft. That's okay. Got it. The new Tesla Model 3 arrives this week, according to a tweet from Elon Musk. The $35,000 electric car has passed all regulatory requirements for production 2 weeks ahead of schedule. And the first one will see the light of day this Friday. If you happen to be one of the first 30 on the list of people who paid their deposit a few years ago, you could get yours as early as the end of this month. Tesla also reports that sales rose 53%, and they reported that they delivered 22,000 vehicles in the second quarter. So this is uncommon for Tesla to be ahead of schedule. Usually they miss deadlines.
Because they originally wanted to make sure that they were hitting by the end of, was it this year or of 2016 or 2017? No,
it was for the Model 3, it was always end of July of this year.
All right, so then they're hitting the target.
But with other Teslas, they have missed the target.
Right.
This one was always end of July 2013. So 30 people will get it at the end of July.
Just got in there. But they're going to ramp that up over time. I think next month, I think you have that stat.
Yeah,
here,
exponentially. It's 100 cars in August, they say, and then 1,500 in September. That's not, yeah.
And then 5 million in October.
Right.
And then
we know how exponents work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and they are on track to beat it's 76,000 cars they delivered in 2016. So they're on track to beat that in 2017. So yeah, I mean, you can get this Tesla for yourself for $27,500. That's with the tax credit. But that tax credit runs out after they sell 200,000 electric vehicles in the United States.
Which I have to imagine, with all the buzz that this car has received, that there are more than that reserved for this vehicle. But I guess I don't actually know that for sure. So
well, if they sold, and it's not of this vehicle. It's all electric vehicles.
Oh, it's not just this model.
No, I think it's all. So they've sold 76,000 just in 2016. So I don't know how many they sold, and they're probably getting close to that tax credit.
Probably so. And I wonder whose lucky number, SN1, the very first serial number of this. They're going to be pretty stoked. I saw this actually somewhat related, but continuing on the AR kit bandwagon, or if Tesla made a wagon, a Norwegian 3D designer, Hjalmar Verhaug, I believe is his name, used iOS AR kit to make an AR version of the Tesla Model 3. So you can, test it out in your driveway. Brian, you have video of that, I think. So you can see how it looks in your driveway and really kind of put it to the test using ARKit. And just, yet another example of how ARKit is taking over the world. Okay, maybe not really, but you can also play with the color options and upgrade it in your driveway and watch it drive off. Kind of cool. So anyways, if you're lusting after your own Tesla Model 3, maybe someday you'll be able to actually get to play with this.
Yeah.
Do you have one on order? Are you waiting?
I don't have one on order. I'm not waiting. There was no way for me to ever try to figure out what kind of car situation I would be in 2 years ago.
I
you
know,
had to
right?
Put your money on it. So
projecting forward, 2 to 3 years is not easy when it comes to your car.
Yeah, I mean, I would like one. I mean, I would like an electric car with this much range, because that's sort of my fear. And, the cost was my fear. I do love I was close to getting the BMW electric car, but it was of my price range, and it didn't fit my whole family.
Right. Yeah, that's an important one. Last year, we spent a few episodes talking about the Transit Elevated Bus, or TEB. That's the massive 300-person electric train being developed in China that passed over the top of cars that were driving on the road between its tracks below it. Kind of looked like it was eating the cars as it moved along. Very, very interesting. On June 21st, apparently, the TEB was relocated to a parking garage and put out of commission. Over the weekend, Beijing announced that those creating the TEB are actually being investigated for potentially illegal fundraising practices. 72 individual investors have filed lawsuits for private lending disputes that has resulted in more than 30 people who handled the financing platform being held by Beijing authorities while it's all being investigated. Private funds starting price was $150,000 with a return of 12% promised. And I guess, we talked about it when it was being road tested last August. Then from there, it just kind of sat in storage. Authorities were asking unsuccessfully for follow-up plans to kind of see where it was, weren't hearing back. Radio silence from TEB Technology Development, who developed the bus. And then the public tests, apparently what we saw, those public tests were done to stir up interest in the funding, but then nothing happened. And now police are working to recover the funds, which honestly, in retrospect, it seems like the Fire Festival for public transportation.
Absolutely. And it actually is a physical thing. It's not like they just created this thing in augmented reality. It's a physical piece of metal that's just sitting there and is creating traffic by people. The Quartz article says that people are just rubbernecking and they can't get around it. And so I mean, I always thought it looked pretty dangerous and kind of shoddy. Yeah. And I never thought it would work.
Yeah, I mean, I had my doubts, but hey, this is the future. We're living in the future. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to doubt things and then realize, oh, actually, maybe they were smarter than me. Apparently they weren't. And so we're probably not going to see the car consuming public transportation vehicle anytime soon.
Yeah, Blake in the chat room does. He says it looks safer than the Fire Festival. That's a good question, whether you think this elevated car eating bus was safer or the Fire Festival. safer. That's a really good.
I wonder what kind of food they served on this thing, and if it was better than the 2 pieces of bread with a slice of American cheese on it. If it was better than that, then I'm all in.
Yeah. Also, were there bathrooms on this car eating bus? That was a good question.
Yeah. Really great questions. We should maybe hold on to those for the next time that we interview the people that are being investigated. Quick reminder that you can comment on anything we discuss by emailing tnt@twit.tv, and of course subscribe to Tech News Today by going to our show page. You can find it at twit.tv/TNT. Up next, we're going to talk a little bit about McMansions and how that kind of collided with Zillow. I'm sure you heard the news last week. We're going to talk all about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but requires no hardware purchase. You already have that hardware. You've already purchased it. It's your device. With their iOS and Android app, callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper actually allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand from wherever you are. When you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number. You can manage both numbers on your device. You simply select a toll-free or local number, record a custom greeting, and you can add multiple extensions for your business. And then, of course, toll-free numbers, awesome for marketing. It'll make your business sound even more professional. And you can set up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world, so any phone becomes your office line. Get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments if that's easier for you to manage on your end. You can also send and receive SMS text messages from your business number on your device. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 per month, and you have a full 30-day money-back guarantee to check it out. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support of Tech News Today.
We love a David and Goliath story around here, especially when the David is someone who regularly makes us laugh on the internet by simply making fun of things we could never afford to own, even if we wanted to, which we don't. Last week, you might have heard the story of McMansion Hell, a hilarious blog devoted to teaching the world about architecture. The blog author was threatened by a cease and desist letter from the Zillow group. We reached out to that author, Kate Wagner. She is here joining us to tell her story. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So tell us how this whole fracas started.
Oh, gosh. I was sitting in the laundromat and doing the laundry, and I got this email from a guy named Christopher Poole. And when I opened the email, I thought it was Moot from 4chan, to be honest. I thought it was somebody from 4chan found my blog and was going to send me like some gore pics or something like that, and was doing so under the name Christopher Poole, which is, of course, the name of our beloved Moot. And it turns out it wasn't. That guy's actually a lawyer at Zillow, and
could be the same guy. Just say it.
That would be pretty great if it was the same guy, to be honest. Moot's really made a name for himself, outside of being a professional basement dweller. But yeah. So first of all, I was terrified because this is, of course, my livelihood and my income, and my project that I've been doing for the last year and devoted so much time and effort to. And I just started this new series, Lurking Around. And anyways, it's like this whole thing was under threat of being gone forever. And that was pretty terrifying. So I, of course, in my panic, posted to Twitter being like, help me. So Zillow is starting to sue me. And I actually got over 200 emails from lawyers that day who wanted to help. That was pretty cool. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation came to my rescue. And over the next couple of days, we drafted this email, sort of going back and forth, and drafting this letter. And I mean, to be quite honest, the letter is pretty, awesome. It's a pretty good slapdown as to why this is so silly. And we sent the letter, and I got the call from my lawyer that the letter had been sent, and I was going to go to the bar to drink. And so I got on the bus and to play the waiting game. And by the time I got to the bar, like 15 minutes later, Zillow was like, "We're done. We're not going to touch this anymore. We're so tired of like the bad PR. We just like this. They saw an out and they took it, so it's over."
I mean, it was pretty basic, like pretty basic fair use for parody. I mean, was that something that you had considered before you started posting these pictures? I mean, had you thought at all about fair use?
Yeah, I actually have a copyright disclaimer at the bottom of all of my house posts that say like, this is totally protected by fair use. Like, if you want to reuse the images on your site or whatever, you can just contact me and I'm pretty accommodating. So, but yeah, it's been about a year and I've never had a copyright complaint until right now. And so the sort of professional sounding copyright disclaimer might have been why that was the case. So yeah, it was interesting to get this at this point in life.
So just to kind of do a little bit of like clarification around what you're actually doing, you have these images that are appearing on Zillow, and then they're of McMansions, and you kind of doctor them up with your hilarious kind of commentary on what they're actually including in the architecture here and why that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But those images that are appearing on Zillow, did Zillow own them in the first place, or were they just kind of putting them into their system, and that in turn made them think that they actually had control over what you did with those images?
Yeah, I think that so Zillow doesn't actually own any of those photos. It has contracts with like realtors and local like MLSs and sort of like skims they're kind of like data bottom feeders, essentially. They just kind of skim and import these listings into Zillow from other places on the internet. And so they don't actually own any of the photos. So even if they did own them, it's still fair use. So, I mean, that part of the argument was moot,
right? To
make my pun. Sorry. But yeah, so what they were trying to get me on was like the terms of service, which was interesting because I didn't actually have a Zillow account. I'd been signed up for one, but because when you send somebody a listing on Zillow through an email, they automatically create an account for you. And basically that's what the letter said was like, unless there's like a checkbox that says like, I agree to the terms of use or some sort of explicit statement, like it doesn't usually hold up in court. And this was sort of the case with Zillow. So it was interesting. And then they tried to get me with the hacking statute, the
CFAA, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act.
I was like, yep, I'm really abusing some computers here by I hacked into Zillow, obviously, and stole all the photos somehow. But yeah, they threw that out. They just put that in there to make it sound scary, like I was going to jail, like I was going to be the next Aaron Schwartz or something. And obviously that's not the case. I'm a free woman, so.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just crazy that they had no sense. I mean, it's what is scary about this is how many people just take down their site. I mean, how many people that might even be, obviously they probably targeted you because you do have such a large following, but I mean, they're probably targeting so many people that are just like, oh, I guess I stole that. I think I have to take my site down. And the people that don't turn to Twitter, that don't have lawyers following them, that can't get this help, that do feel threatened by this. And you're not, I mean, we should say also, you're not just making fun of houses. This is an architecture blog. You have a lot, I mean, what kind of background do you have? What kind of architecture background do you have?
Well, I've actually been writing about architecture since about I was in high school, just about. And so I've been doing it for a really long time, but not actually in the public sphere. I actually don't have an architecture degree. My degree is actually in architectural acoustics because I wanted to work with architects on concert hall interiors. But it just goes to show you, you don't always necessarily need a degree to work on something. But anyways, my previous line of work was as a classical recording engineer, which requires a lot of sort of, spatial microphone techniques and whatnot like that. And I also worked at a speaker company for a number of years as an acoustical engineering intern. So, just an interesting sort of and diverse line of work. But but all sort of the while I was always sort of writing these essays about everyday houses and doing this research, and decided to, originally the thought for the blog was not like, it wasn't actually, the intention was not to end up to look like this. The intention was to be like, explain to people why these houses are ugly. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ugly house blogs. I mean, the Ugly Belgian Houses is a favorite of mine personally. And, but none of them really explain why the houses are ugly. And so unless you can sort of explain that, you kind of are just in the sort of subjective realm of well, he said, she said. And there's sociological reasons as to why the houses are so, awful that goes outside of architecture. But just explaining these things, like the basic rules of architecture, to people who, and in America we don't really get like that great of an arts education to begin with, and architecture is certainly not included in that. I think the only thing I ever learned about architecture formally in school was in my art class, my junior year of high school, which we learned what a flying buttress was, and everyone laughed.
You're really funny. So obviously this has been an informative experience for you, I have to imagine, as a site owner, producing this content online, taking the process that you've been doing for the past year and doing something with it, and then realizing that, oh, wait, there's this whole other interpretation. Mind you, it didn't really result in anything concrete, but it's certainly probably opened your eyes at this point to, that people are watching, I suppose. Has this changed how you operate or how you plan to operate your site kind of going forward, even though there was no kind of end to this that resulted in you having to take your site down because of these choices? Like what, I don't know, is there anything that you walk away from this experience going, I'm going to do this differently now?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to use photos from Zillow anymore because, I mean, why would they? Why would I? They threatened to ruin my life. At the same time, also, like, every time I used photos from Zillow, I put that they were from Zillow in the site, and that just obviously gave them some traffic. And they won't be getting any traffic from me anymore. So, that's one thing. But other than that, I think, honestly, like, I haven't been actually using photos from Zillow for like the house posts that often, because the photo quality is poor compared to other sources. Right. But this was mostly for like, Zillow has a really effective search engine. So I think that, that was sort of like the reason why I'd used it for like house roasting purposes as far as writing goes. Mm-hmm. But I think that, as far as like the content of the site is going to stay pretty much the same. I don't see a need to really radically change anything. This doesn't really change, be like, oh no, I'm just not going to do this anymore. That's not really how it's going to go, I don't think. I think it's just going to be exactly the same. I might change my copyright disclaimer a little bit, but right. I mean, it's probably going to be, exactly the same.
Good.
One last question. Is it ever okay to have a turret on your house in the United States?
It can be. I mean, it's not always a bad thing. Like when the turrets are oversized, it gets a little goofy, or like when they're just kind of attached, it gets a little goofy, especially like on certain styles. So like I think about Texas a lot when I think about this question. So in Texas, they have like a lot of these Mediterranean style houses, and like while like a small turret is going to be, relatively common in sort of Spanish Revival architecture, like a big turret is just completely anathema. It's completely like, it's like almost like, Victorian Queen Anne style architecture. That's just, or like maybe like, Tudor style, or this medieval based English styled architecture that was popular in the 19th century and early 20th century. And honestly, like unless you're building in that style, a turret is just kind of goofy. But I can see why people like turrets, to be honest. I think people like round spaces. I think they like round spaces because in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of difficult to build a round space. It takes a little bit more engineering than just to build like a sort of square space. And so I think that the sort of unique novelty of it, oh my God, that house. That's got to be one of the worst.
It looks like a toy, to be honest.
It does. It looks like it's from The Sims, and not in a good way.
I appreciate a turret because it's like you're putting a hat on your house. It's not a bad thing.
It's a nice hat. Yeah, it's a good hat.
Kate, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Kate Wagner is a graduate student at Johns Hopkins in acoustics, and also it's a joint program with Peabody. Also, she's a musician. And of course, follow the McMansion blog and McMansionHell.com, and follow her on Twitter at McMansion Hell. And thank you so much, Kate, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Take
Best
care.
of luck.
You too.
All right, feedback time. Thomas Silva wrote into us about our trucking automation story last week. He sent us this picture of his truck and said, until they get a robot to unload these groceries, I'm pretty sure my job is safe. Long haul trucking is where autonomous trucks will come in handy. That's very true. Although I could see, big sized Wallies, running around somewhere in the future, but I think you might be okay. I think that's distant future.
Mm-hmm. I trust Thomas that it seems like complicated to get that stuff off there.
Yeah.
TNT's fan of the day is Michael Dice on Twitter, who sent us this picture saying, just catching up on my TNT episodes. Here is our wiener dog.
That's what they're called. Thank you for using the appropriate word. Appreciate it.
The more pictures of wiener dogs or dachshunds that I've seen, they have lovely hair. You go to, and eyebrows too.
Mm-hmm.
The eyebrows on this
Those
one. That's
eyebrows.
what I want. I'm considering dyeing my eyebrows orange so that I can look like that.
The inside of your eyebrows orange. The outside, leave them dark. The inside orange. I like that.
Please keep sending your pictures of dogs. It's the only reason I get up in the morning. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT, record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup and your dog, please, 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 and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we are going to find it.
All right, so Volvo is actively testing its autonomous vehicles on the road. And in Australia, it's discovered that its systems are having a hard time identifying kangaroos as obstacles. The large animal detection system, which is part of their autonomous vehicle technology, can track animals like deer, elk, and caribou, but the hopping of a kangaroo is different enough to throw off the system. I guess the system uses the ground as its constant tracking point, which means a kangaroo that hops off the ground isn't always in contact with it. Therefore, it throws off the analysis of how close the car is to the kangaroo. We're going to get all the flags on today's show. I love it.
Whether it's appropriate or not.
Yes, exactly. In the middle of an interview? I don't know. Anywhere. But yeah, apparently Volvo says it's testing in Australia for exactly this purpose because, the systems might be designed in one place and accustomed to certain animals, and hey, those animals aren't in other places, and animals in other places aren't there. So
yeah, kangaroos cause more accidents in Australia than any other animal.
90% of accidents with an animal are with a kangaroo in Australia.
I, for one, will never buy a driverless car that doesn't have kangaroo detection included.
Yeah, even if you're not in Australia. Because you just never know when the kangaroo uprising is going to happen.
You never know when the kangaroo uprising is going to happen.
You don't want to be unprepared.
Right. I'm going to tweet at Elon Musk and find out if Teslas have kangaroo detection or not.
Oh, was that a baby kangaroo? Oh, okay. It's a lie. I thought we were watching The Circle of Life right there. I was a little worried. Yeah, I actually have a friend who lives in Canberra in Australia, and actually that's where these trials were conducted, and that revealed the problems with kangaroos. And he told me last time I saw him that in his time that he's lived there, I think he's been there now 4.5, almost 5 years, he's hit 2 kangaroos. It's just a thing. It's just, he's like, and it's normal. It just happens to everybody.
It's not normal.
It's not
the
normal
second
to
we
me.
start thinking that's normal, that's when we're in trouble.
We have to be very, very cautious. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Though we have no show tomorrow, as a reminder, the studio's closed as we celebrate the 4th of July holiday. Give you a little second to catch up, Brian. There we go. All right. You can be part of the show for when we return on Wednesday by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
If you want to tell us some stories that you think we should include, we're always open to hearing from you on the TNT subreddit. That's technewstoday.reddit.com. If you find a good story, please put it up there and then we will see it. You can also find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me about whether you like kangaroos or dogs better, I am at Megan Maroney.
Ooh, that would be a good poll. Kangaroo or dog? I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director and flag transitioner,
Yay.
Brian. There we go. We got it one last time. Brian Burnett. Thanks to Burke for helping out here in the studio. Appreciate it. There we go. Missed the thumb. That's okay. It's a holiday tomorrow. We'll give you that. Kevin, thank you. Really.
No, I'm editing it today.
Oh,
It's Monday.
Thank you, Brian, for editing the show. And thanks for you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. Bye, everyone. Can I high five you? Are you better?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, see, it's the best of both worlds.
Kangaroo and dog.
Is that a Rottweiler?
Yeah. Aww.